All right, welcome to another episode of Soda Desperado Plays Star Wars: The Old Republic. I finished up Planet Voss last time, and I'm on Corellia now. Went through a bunch of stuff. So far, I have not finished this character's freaking basic storyline. So it just keeps going on and on. But I had recording issues where I cannot switch between screens. So I set the software to record the game, so I can't show you what I'm playing in the background. So I'll describe it to you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it, and I'll put the links for the YouTube, the YouTube videos that I'm playing in the background in the description. And that way, if you really want to see it for yourself, you just click on the link in the description. A lot of people do that. And that's the best I can do. I'm assuming that when I go out of this screen, that this recording will pause, right? And then it'll go ahead and allow me to go ahead and start the video. Okay, I'm going to try right now. Hopefully this will work. Because the game keeps losing integrity. Let me log in first, because that screen, for some reason, I get kicked out of there a lot. But here we go. All right. So I got a couple of videos. All right. See, I'm on Corellia. All right. So this is where I left off. I got to go do some stuff. Anyway, let's try this. I'm going to try right now. It should theoretically freeze everything. All right, so it's not recording the screen I'm on. So right now I'm on the Finance Zone is the name of the YouTube channel, the Finance Zone, and the video is I Can't Believe What Just Happened to Judge Merchant. All right.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Dylan here. We have a major bombshell today about Judge Juan Merchan, who's overseeing the Trump hush money case. Well, Donald J. Trump just called for the New York judge to be completely disbarred after the hush money conviction advances, all right? This judge just announced that he now wants to sentence Donald J. Trump before his inauguration day, all right? So whatever's wrong with this judge, we are going to be diving in and exposing the deep, dark truth about this, and also all the updates with what's going to be happening to him. In my opinion, I do believe this judge should also be disbarred. I agree with Trump, okay? Before we dive in, we are going to read the Bible and pray, my friends, because God comes first. Amen? Comment amen down below if you believe that God comes first, okay? Today's Bible reading is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Amen. So comment amen down below, my friends. And if you've been wondering where I've been posting on my other YouTube channel called The Finance Group. I'll have it linked down below, so go ahead and subscribe. But otherwise, let's jump into the video. We have a major bombshell today from Judge Juan Merchan. This sick man just scheduled Donald Trump's sentencing before Inauguration Day. You cannot make this up. For whatever reason, this judge is going after Donald J. Trump in the hush money case. And now, Donald Trump is going to be sentenced right before his Inauguration Day. Doesn't this seem like very interesting timing? Just so happens to be right before he goes into presidency. I know a lot of people are saying that 2025 is going to be a crazy year. There's already horrible things that have happened, like the Las Vegas incident, like the New Orleans incident. I don't know if you've seen the Sean Ryan podcast, but there's a lot of crazy things happening. Now, let's tune in to Judge Juan Merchan.
All right, breaking right now. The judge rejecting President-elect Trump's bid to throw out his criminal conviction in New York because of his election win and ordering to show up for a sentencing a week from today, either in person or virtually. That's all according to Reuters. Prosecutors had suggested putting the case on hold until Trump leaves office, but now he's facing sentencing before Inauguration Day. Constitutional attorney and Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley is going to be standing by on the phone for us in just a moment, but we have Clay Travis, I believe, with us still here. Clay, your reaction, this is just an incredible hour to go from, a win for the president-elect with the speakership and now sentencing before inauguration?
Yeah, this is crazy. I will say the fact is you just hit it. I've got the order in front of me right now. To allow him to appear virtually suggests to me that there is not going to be a substantial punishment coming from Judge Merchan. Now, I could be wrong, but if you're virtually sentencing someone, you're not taking them into custody or trying to do something in a significant way there. So
that's a fair point. But at the same time, why doesn't he just drop the case altogether? America voted for Trump. Now, you got to keep in mind that Judge Juan Merchan actually has donated to Joe Biden in the past. During the 2020 United States presidential election, Juan Merchan donated to the Democratic Party candidate Joe Biden's campaign, and also to the Progressive Turnout Project, and also to Stop Republicans, which is a subsidiary of the Progressive Turnout Project. I mean, just looking at the judge, you can basically just tell that he's a frickin' lib. He even wears the Rachel Maddow Mark Cuban glasses. And this is what he donated to. The Stop Republicans campaign. Resist the radical Republican agenda. What is about Stop Republicans?
That's
it is an accountability
that's
campaign.
A conflict of
Progressive
interest
Turnout
right
Project.
there.
It's a
You shouldn't be
grassroots
presiding
effort
over that case.
dedicated to resisting the Republican Party and Donald Trump's right-wing legacy. So how is this judge supposed to be unbiased when he literally donated to resisting the radical Republican agenda and stopping Donald Trump? Like, this dude, he donated, what, 10, 15 bucks? 35 bucks total, whatever it was. He literally got the emails to say, hey, let's stop Trump. And he goes, fuck yeah, let me donate to that. I mean, this judge is absolutely sick.
That's my biggest takeaway reading the order.
All right, Clay Travis, thank you very much. We want to bring in constitutional attorney and Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley now by phone. Jonathan, break this down for us. What does this mean? What are we likely to see play out?
Well, that's a very good question. This is a judge that has kept people really guessing for a very long time. I described this once as the longest performance of Hamlet in history. We really could not figure out what Merchan was going to do. He's now decided to sentence the president shortly before he is sworn in. Now, one of the things that I've said in the past is that many of the complications that we've been talking about and potential conflicts with the constitutional standards only arise if you impose a sentence that would hold him physically or demand his appearance, things like home confinement or actual sentence to jail. This would be a case where you would not even normally see a sentence for incarceration. So I've always doubted that that would be coming out of this case. So the court may be looking at this and saying, I'm not going to trigger any constitutional problems because I'm going to hand down a sentence that's not going to bind him in any way or interfere with his carrying out his duties. The one thing that I have to say, you put a positive spin on this, is the worst option is the one suggested by Bragg, that you should just suspend the sentence and keep the president as pending sentencing for 4 years.
Well, could Trump actually go to jail, though? Like, that's my concern. Because if his sentencing is before Inauguration Day, could we see some crazy situation where Trump actually goes to jail? I don't know. I mean, to me, sentence means sentence, usually sentencing to jail, right? Or to prison.
That was a perfectly horrific idea that has been pushed by many. And I think that many people on the list...
We've got less than 30 seconds left in the show, but I want to ask you, what do you expect the Trump team to do in response to this? Can they appeal it? What happens next?
I don't think they're going to have a lot of luck appealing this. I think the appellate court's going to want to see what he rules. Because if he comes down with a sentence that doesn't bind the president, then a lot of the constitutional problems fade away.
So you expect that we will see the sentencing go through, we will see a sentence?
Yeah, they may well appeal this, but the odds are always in favor of trial judges to be holding these hearings. The appellate courts like to see sentences finalized that they can review the case and the sentence.
So we do have actually breaking news. Donald Trump actually just responded, so this is good news. This just came out as of 45 minutes ago. Trump calls for this judge to be disbarred after hush money conviction advances. President-elect, in a weekend rant, turned his ire out on the New York judge who ordered sentencing to begin. It's not a weekend rant. God, I hate these freaking biased liberal news sites. It's Trump responding to him getting sentenced before his inauguration. Oh, his weekend rant. He called him the most conflicted judge in New York State history. He said, "I never falsified business records. It is fake. Made up charge by a corrupt judge who is doing the work of the Biden-Harrison Justice Department. An attack on their political opponent, me." Whoa. He just wrote this morning on Truth. He created a case where there was none. Keeps a gag order on me so that I can't talk about how crooked he is. The fake news knows all about it, but they refuse to talk. He may be the most conflicted judge in New York State history. Wow. His comments came a day after Judge Juan Merchan announced that sentencing for the president-elect 34-count felony conviction will begin on January 10, handing Trump a blow after he demanded his case be dismissed following his election victory. Despite the decision to move forward with the case, Merchan signaled he is inclined to propose no punishment in the case connected to a payment made to an adult film star cover-up an alleged affair during the 2016 election. The New York judge cited the Supreme Court's president, which, by the way, that's the chick. Donald Trump has always declined sleeping with her. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because she is not the prettiest woman in the world, right? Donald Trump likes class. Melania, for instance. The New York judge cited the Supreme Court's presidential immunity ruling in making that choice, especially as Trump prepares to take the oath of office later this month. Still, the president-elect continued to rail against Merchan, calling him a totally out-of-control, Trump-hating judge, and calling for him to be disbarred. The judge should be disbarred, Trump says. Do you guys think he should be disbarred? This is why people and companies are fleeing New York, he wrote again Saturday, a corrupt court system. There's never been a president who was so heavily and illegally treated as I. Corrupt Democrat judges and prosecutors have gone against a political opponent of a president, me, at levels of injustice never seen before. Corrupt judges, or judges so blinded by their hatred of me and my political ideology to make America great again, are making a mockery of the United States judicial system, and the world is watching in disgust. Trump invoked his win against Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith in vowing to appeal the case. Deranged Jack Smith, the evil and sinister prosecutor appointed by crooked Joe Biden to take me down, was found to be illegally appointed by corrupt DOJ and FBI. His illegal raid of my home, Mar-a-Lago, will go down as one of the dirtiest tricks ever perpetrated by one candidate, a dumb as a rock, sleepy Joe Biden on another. Trump added, with all of this said, I still have confidence that the appellate courts will bring justice to America. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous, right?
We have breaking news, everyone, as Judge Juan Merchan just ordered Donald Trump to appear for sentencing on January 10th. He can do it either in person or virtually. Joining us right now is MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin on the phone. Lisa, tell us what has just happened. I wonder if we just lost you. Hang on a second. Garrett, we have you. I understand you've just read in on this.
Yep.
January 10, that is 1 week from today. It is 10 days prior to inauguration. But give me a sense of what Judge Juan Merchan here in New York has suggested will happen on January 10th.
Well, just reviewing this 18-page filing from Judge Merchan here, who was basically asked to answer the question of whether Donald Trump's winning the presidential election sort of provides him any additional immunity from prosecution or from sentencing in a case in which he was already convicted by a jury. Remember also over the summer...
It should. Donald Trump won in a major landslide. It should set a precedent. It should send a message. The America voted for Trump. Trump won in every single swing state. Alina Habba just went scorched earth on Judge Juan Merchan. Let's tune in, guys.
Joining us now, incoming counselor to President-elect Trump, Alina Habba. Alina, we love talking to you. It's wonderful to see you again. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us tonight. First, do you have any more details on the alleged misconduct by the juror in this case?
I do, as part of, obviously I'm part of the team, but those are not ones that I am willing to share at this point. What I can tell you is it's definitely egregious, despite the redactions, and without getting into detail, it is not a questionable thing. There was misconduct by the jurors, and it would have anything thrown out. Now, one thing we are learning, as you've delicately said, but I will say more directly, Judge Merchan's description of what happened and what falls under the Supreme Court's decision is so flawed and egregious and so ridiculous. He is completely disregarding the Supreme Court of the United States, the highest court that said that there is presidential immunity for official acts. And
yeah, this crooked judge, this left-leaning, Trump-hating, liberal, lunatic judge, shouldn't he respect the Supreme Court? Oh, you're a judge. You should respect the Supreme Court.
Now, he is trying to carve out in any way he can to preserve face and say that this trial was not a complete hoax, was not a complete disaster, an evidentiary disaster. And now we know there were issues with the jury being tainted. So, this is where we are. And this is where we've been for 3.5 years. And frankly, why I think we won.
Alina, so we've got allegations of a juror's misconduct in the case. Can you please tell us how this case is ripe for appeal? Legal experts have told us there are a lot of constitutional violations. The jury wrongly heard evidence that was protected by presidential immunity the Supreme Court upheld, like President Trump's conversations with Hope Hicks. The judge delayed sentencing indefinitely. That's clearly a due process right to a speedy trial violation. And now juror misconduct, it sounds like that juror was tainted. There could have been bias here.
Crazy.
Yeah, let's add some to that. Statute of limitations, which before they brought this, we knew was passed. This case was passed up by Cy Vance. It was passed up prior by Bragg, and then it was brought again. How about we also discuss that the White House was coordinating and sent their own guy into work for the New York DA from the DOJ? How about that? How about selective prosecution, tying this man up in a hoax case during an election cycle when he should have been campaigning? How about all of the things you said? But this is where we have problems. The judge should have recused. We've said it time and time again. We have one thing standing right now before all the appeals we will take on this ridiculous decision today, and that is the motion to dismiss that this judge gave us leave to file. I don't have much hope in Judge Merchan. But we do have pending motions. Go ahead.
Sorry, Alina. So, Senator Chuck Grassley, has said this is really scary that all Americans, right or left, he's saying take the politics out of it. When you see the lawfare abuses, it could happen to you. It could happen to viewers. That's why millennial voters, we heard, were so scared about what the Justice Department and what cases like D.A. Bragg brought. They feel it could happen to them personally. This was a books and records misdemeanor, like a parking ticket, but it got ramped up into 34 felonies. That's terrifying for the American judicial system. Final word.
Yes, and he was not there. He was in the White House as president. These are acts that were done by an accounting team at the Trump Organization. And there is so many uncanny things happening here. And the American people are afraid, and they should be afraid, but not anymore. Because I can assure you that when we go in and when this administration gets to work, it will be top of mind to fix this lawfare and prosecution against a political opponent or any American. It should not happen.
Okay. Whoa! I mean, it is kind of crazy, though, that all of this stuff that they're going after Trump for is mainly because of somebody that worked for Trump did something wrong, right? This is pretty nuts. And really quickly, my friends, I wanted to tell you that if you've been missing me, if you have been wondering where I've been posting on my other YouTube channel called The Finance Group, okay? So I have the Finance Zone and the Finance Group. So if you want to follow me and make sure you don't miss my updates, go subscribe to my other channel right now. It'll take 2 seconds. I'll have a link below. I've been posting there every single day. So if you've been missing me, that's where I've been. Now let's get back to Juan Merchan. Even CNN is now admitting that the political contribution to Democrats raises fresh scrutiny of Judge Juan Merchan. Because why would, an unbiased judge make
overseeing
a donation to a legit PAC or a subsidiary to stop Trump? You know what I mean? Politically, right?
Judge overseeing the case against former President Donald Trump is now facing new scrutiny tonight after political donations that he made to Democrats came to light. CNN's Kara Scannell is...
Shouldn't that totally just dismiss the judge? How is anybody taking this judge at face value after that?
On the story again for us. Kara, these were very small contributions, but they do raise an important question of potential bias. What are you learning?
Yeah, Alex, that's right. And some allies of the former president are focusing in on that, wanting Judge Juan Merchan, who's overseeing this trial, to recuse himself from this case. So what we learned from federal election records is that the judge had made $35 in donations in July of 2020. Those donations, $15 went to the Biden campaign, $10 went to Progressive Turnout Project, and $10 went to Stop Republicans. Those are two voter turnout groups. And I spoke with a professor of legal.
And the Stop Republicans group, it's not that it's honestly even potentially worse that it's a small donation, because those emails you get, it's like, oh, stop Trump, or maybe you get the ones that say stop Kamala, whatever, and you reply to it and you say, yeah, I'm gonna take my dollars and give it to them. It means you're easily swayed, right? You probably got an email and then you agreed to it. So it's subconsciously this judge probably hates Trump.
Ethics, and he says that the American Bar Association and the New York Code of Conduct could suggest that some of these donations are forbidden, but he said it comes nowhere close to grounds for recusal.
What?
He asked the court administrators for comment. They're declining to comment on these donations tonight, Alex.
That's crazy. Oh, this guy says that the New York judge is desperate to brand Trump as a convicted felon before the inauguration. So maybe that's the reason why he wants to convict Trump, is because he wants to call him legitimately a convicted felon. That's actually pretty nuts.
But you might remember a guy... Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity. It's been a while, but you might remember a guy named Juan Merchan. He's the Manhattan judge overseeing Donald Trump's trial in New York, featuring dozens of bizarre paperwork charges from a supposed crime with, no victims. But after the Supreme Court ruled that presidents are immune from prosecution for official actions, Trump asked Merchan to dismiss the case altogether.
Yep.
Naturally, the liberal Manhattan judge said no. Not only is he keeping the guilty verdict intact, Merchan also announced that he will be sentencing Trump on January 10th, less than 2 weeks before the inauguration. Though he did make it clear that Trump is not facing any jail time. In an exclusive interview with Fox News Digital, Trump called Merchan, quote, the most conflicted judge in the history of jurisprudence, and said the judge is clearly working on behalf of the Democrats since their other witch hunts have failed. Here now with reaction are Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett and former Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us both. Greg, you literally wrote the book on witch hunts here, so I can't believe this case is still alive, let alone being set up for sentencing. What's your reaction?
Well, Judge Merchan is determined to stain Donald Trump with a label convicted felon. To do that, though, he has to sentence him before inauguration. Otherwise, he can't really technically call him a convicted felon. So Merchan is dangling what he thinks is a tantalizing offer. Agree to be sentenced next Friday, Mr. Trump, and there will be no incarceration or probation or anything, complete discharge. Well, I doubt that Donald Trump will bite. And he shouldn't bite, Jason. He was found guilty by a biased jury of crimes that don't even exist under the law. He was all but framed by a politically driven DA who worked in concert with a hostile judge who was required to recuse himself but refused to do it. So this turned out to be a sham trial based on a convoluted incoherent legal theories. You point out it was utterly absurd, was rife with reversible errors by the judge, and it will eventually get overturned. But for now, I expect Trump to fight any sentencing. He wants to clear his name. He'll probably seek a stay in the appellate court, so we'll see what happens next week. But if Trump does not get a stay, he still benefits, because only after sentencing can he begin appealing the case on the merits and all the mistakes that Merchan made.
Alan, what's your take on this case? Now, you've been around the block. You've seen an awful lot of cases. What's the latest? What's your perspective?
This is the worst instance of Stalinism in my 60-year career. You know, Stalin was told, show me the man and I'll find you the crime. And so Letitia James, the Democratic Attorney General, and Alvin Bragg, the Democratic DA, tried to find a crime to convict Trump of, but they couldn't. They couldn't find the crime. They searched the books. They couldn't find the crime. So they made one up out of whole cloth. A totally made-up case. And if they can make up a case against Donald Trump, they can make it up against you, too. And now they're trying to avoid him getting an appeal. One way of avoiding him getting an appeal was not sentencing. Okay, now they're going to sentence him. There's another possibility. The governor may pardon him. And if the governor pardons him, then he still has the stigma of a conviction. And there's a question about whether he can appeal if he's been pardoned. They're looking at every possible way of avoiding an appellate reversal, because any decent appellate court will reverse this conviction for a dozen different reasons. One, there was no crime. Two, there was immunity. Three, error after error after error. Four, recusal and disqualification. The worst criminal case in my memory. The worst.
Donald Trump winning in November wasn't only a victory for Trump and the MAGA movement in the Republican Party. It was a victory for America, because Donald Trump persevered through all of those cases brought against him. They tried to bring him down. He got everything thrown at him. He almost got assassinated, and yet he still won, right? And this sick judge, for whatever reason, he's not going along with that, right? It's a mandate that Trump won in such a high fashion. So let me know your thoughts down below with Judge Juan Merchan. Thank you so much for watching today's show. And again, subscribe to my new channel linked below. If you've been wondering where I've been posting on this other channel that I created called The Finance Group. So go ahead and subscribe there. I've been posting there every single day. So if you've been missing me, go to my other channel called The Finance Group. I'd love to see you there. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.
Wow. What a bitch. Man, the Democratic Party looks like a bunch of sore losers, man. They really do look like a bunch of sore losers. I mean, geez, you would have to be a sore loser to even do anything close to what they're doing to Trump. You would have to be a real sore loser and desperate to get, to keep your power. They're desperate to stay in charge. They're desperate to keep their power. They don't want anybody else in there calling the shots, which means that I bet behind the scenes they're doing a lot more corruption than we know. I mean, people that get that desperate for power, they'll arrange anything. I don't define myself by socio-political power or monetary power, but they do. They define themselves by how much they control. And that's what's going on there. They don't want to lose control over the establishment. That's so crazy, but there it is. Yeah. Let me get through all of this and see if I can actually get to the location I need to get to. It's the only downside is this stuff can be pretty confusing. Oh, made it to level 69. That's something. Alright, I'm finally in the area I need to do the work in. Try to remember the access points there. I wish I could put markers on here. Anyway, I'm going to see if I can play the next video. And like I said, I'll put it in the description. But this video is like an hour and 30 minutes. I think we can do it. It says The Untold Story of Alex Jones, Glenn Beck podcast number 227.
Next guest presides over a conspiracy empire. It's been said that he's the most paranoid man in America. But today, I wanted to spend some time and find out the person behind the persona, the person, just trying to find out who he really is, beyond all of the labels, and let him tell the story and you decide for yourself. Is he a truth teller being persecuted in submission? Or is he a sensationalist being brought to justice? Or is it a little of everything? In the end, you have to decide. This has been controversial, even in my own building, to have him on. But I believe in free speech, even for people that I disagree with. If we lose the freedom to speak, there is no freedom. Yeah. So today I welcome to the podcast a man I honestly never thought I would sit down with.
That was good.
Alex Jones.
Stay back. I will not allow more lives to be lost.
Before we get to Alex, I want to tell you about the glasses that I'm wearing because they are the best I've ever worn. They are called Rodenstock Biometric Intelligent Glasses. They're available exclusively in the United States, one place, through Better Spectacles. Now, like progressive policies, a lot of progressive lenses don't work. And if you're like me and you use your glasses for almost everything you do every day, you can't exactly grin and bear it, you know? That's where the biometric intelligent glasses come in. These lenses actually do what they claim to do. They're German-engineered, AI-powered, and they give you natural vision experience that works perfectly with your brain and gives you the sharpest vision at distance. Have you ever put on glasses and your eyes have to adjust? They shouldn't do that. This is the way they should be. Imagine seeing 40% better. Better Spectacles, the only place in America offering these lenses, and I can tell you from personal experience, they are worth it. Go to betterspectacles.com/Beck. Save 61% today. Trust me, you'll never throw these in a drawer. Visit betterspectacles.com/Beck. Welcome, Alex. How are you?
It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. You are a hard guy to find anybody neutral about you. There's nobody neutral. You know, I was talking to my producers, and they said every source we find either loves him or absolutely hates him. Who are you? People think you're a villain or a hero. Talk to me about both of those labels. Who are you?
If I had to quantify, more like a Tasmanian devil. I mean, not really a bad guy, but we kind of get out of control wild, especially when I was younger. I mean, I'm 50 now, and I've always tried to tell the truth, always tried to be accurate, but I look back on being on air 30 years, completely self-taught since I was 20. On Access TV, they got a local radio show, and got self-syndicated on some markets, and started making documentary films. So I'm completely self-taught, and so I've kind of gotten educated over the 30 years. And I mean, I was always in like reading books written by the globalists and studying history, and that was always fascinating. So most information was accurate, but there wasn't much perspective of time and interviewing thousands of people and all the experiences and then making the mistakes I've made. But I never liked the corporate dinosaur media.
Yeah.
Tried to deceive people. In fact, it was the opposite. There wasn't like some big formula to it. And when I got sued by the lawfare deep state, which they now admits the Democratic Party and the FBI and Justice Department that's even come out in court and in undercover videos, they kept saying, "Who's your boss? Who's telling you to say this? Who's doing it?" And it was all me.
So you are on this recent. I mean, you were completely pushed out of the media, and it was kiss of death to even say your name. And now you're kind of having this resurgence. What is the difference between you then and you now?
That's a big question. Short answer, long, medium answer?
No, whatever. We have all the time in the world. So.
I've only started to do kind of introspective things on myself the last 5 years or so. And I didn't realize how big my show was even 25 years ago or 20 years ago or 15 years ago. And I would also joke around and be sarcastic and have a lot of satire. And then they would mix that in with something I said an hour later, very serious. And I guess attacks in a way made me bigger, a lot bigger, but I really wasn't even thinking about that. So it was kind of seat of my pants. And then now being 50 and having 21-year-old son, 20-year-old daughter, 16-year-old daughter, 7-year-old daughter, and just having a divorce and going through all that and just experiencing things and then getting older and having a lot of your friends and family die. It's just I've become more retrospective and more I don't want to say nostalgic. The world's gotten a lot darker. So much of what I said was going to happen because it was in the actual globalist white papers and the crystal ball came true. And so people started taking what I was saying a lot more seriously and then kind of cherry-picking the mistakes or things out of context. And so I realized I have a much larger responsibility. It's cheesy, but it's true. With great power comes great responsibility, like Spider-Man. And I'll be honest about it because I want to be a good example for people. I was not a big drinker in high school or college. I'd go to a party, drink a few beers while my buddies were throwing up, and things like that. But getting into talk radio 29 years ago and then being around the sales guys, the older guys, still that old radio generation was there.
Which was a bad I was in that generation. That was a bad generation.
Bad generation. And so I was going out with the bosses, and they were drinking scotch and smoking cigars. And I liked them. That's what you did. And I was making more money as a salesman than even my first radio job. And I ended up being like one of the top salesmen there at that station, or the top salesman at one point. And I just slowly got into alcohol. And then it got to where I drank at night. And then it got to where I started, maybe by the end of the show drinking some. And then, kind of the middle of the show. And then I'd say right when Trump started running is when I would say I became an alcoholic. I mean, I really fell into it to where I needed it to have energy. So I was drinking when I got into the office or right when I went on air. I'd have the first drink of like vodka and soda most days, And it never got to morning drinking or anything. But
so were you buzzed or were you drunk while you were on the air?
Well, we were talking before we went on air here or taped here that you were saying, in your days, you told the crew we'd have a lot better show if I was drunk. I mean, I think that's true some of the time because it's vino veritas. It relaxes you, and I've known a lot of musicians and people that don't drink in their regular life, but when they go out on stage, they drink a half bottle of wine. Maybe in a break, they'll drink another, and then come back out and play 5 more songs. I mean, there is something to it. It's a poison, but it was a poison where starting about 9 years ago is when I really started drinking a lot more. And then by the time Trump got elected, I went from being buzzed on air to at least one day a week being drunk. And I can trace back any problems or issues I've had to when I was drunk. I've been honest with the listeners. And so it was the opposite of some big corporate planned out thing. It was doing a bunch of research, constantly in the news, really caring. But then, and especially the nighttime shows, sometimes I would go on air with like a live podcast format. And, I'm going to go ahead and go live at 9. I'd be on there at 2 in the morning, and we'd have millions and millions and millions of listeners at that, little tuning in right then, and they were drinking too probably, and it was crazy. So, and then about, I guess 5-6 years ago, I started slowly cutting down, and then I would just completely quit drinking, and so it feels great, and and the demon's gone. I have absolutely no desire. I can go out with people and they're drinking. I can go to a party. I can go to events, and I just want zero. And then I've found more discipline. Then I'm not in great shape because I kind of almost wrecked my health doing it.
Yeah.
But I've gotten where I'm starting to do intermittent fasting. It's really good, and I've been exercising more. And just been
Did you go to AA? Do you say you were an alcoholic and you're now an alcoholic in recovery, or you?
I have gone to AA meetings.
So, but I mean, I'm trying to see how you label this. You had a problem with drinking, and now you choose not to drink, or you're an alcoholic, and so you've sworn it off.
I think AA is really helpful and done a great job. I wouldn't say I'm like an AA guy. It sits there and says, I'm an alcoholic in the meetings. I've never done that. But I've been to them. I've gone with some family. I've taken friends to it. I've probably been to AA probably 50 times. But to me, the other times, like pulling away from the last 5-6 years, and then that's really the big change. And then down to not very much, and then none for quite a while. I guess the people at AA say they're always wanting it. It's always an issue. To me, I think it was alcoholic level stuff. These are all just terms.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like being demon possessed. It's no longer there. And then you look back on it and you go, how the hell was I doing that? So I think that's really what it is. When I was younger, I didn't get in road rage and stuff, but if somebody cut me off or yelled at me, I'd flip them off back. For 25 years or so, I don't flip somebody off. I actually feel sorry for them and wave at them. And even if I'm not in the wrong, I say I'm sorry. That was like another thing where I'd get mad in traffic. And it's just one day it went away. But T-bones and ribeyes and cheese potatoes and stuff. And I've got a real that still got me. But
yeah. Texas is a hard place to live in if you care about your health, because the food is unbelievable. There's lots of it, and most of it's fried.
Yeah, absolutely. Chicken fried steaks, you're getting that. Yeah, it's like Marilyn Monroe in her prime, chicken fried steak. I might go chicken fried steak.
So who were you as a kid? You said earlier that you had always read about conspiracy stuff. Who were you as a kid? What were your interests as a kid?
I didn't realize growing up here in Texas, and both sides of my family are founding Texas families. Wow. Really in the whole thing, creating it. Washington, the Brazos, my ancestors, and then raised Colonel Travis's son on my mom's side, a bunch of other stuff. And then my dad's side, we still have land here. They got Mexican land grants. Still have copies of it laminated from the Mexican government, like 12, 13 cents an acre. We still have some of that land in East Texas. So I didn't realize that I got the Americana upbringing. Teaching me about guns at 4, putting Folgers cans out there and shooting them with a .410 shotgun to teach the power. And then by the time I was 6, good shot with 22. And a lot of my family, and I didn't realize that was interesting, were in clandestine stuff and Army Special Operations and things like that. So growing up, on both sides of the family, my mom's brother was big in Iran-Contra and all that kind of stuff. So I grew up.
How do you mean big into it? Big in exposing it?
No, in it.
In it.
Doing it, yeah.
Wow. What part? What?
With Army Special Operations, the CIA and stuff.
Okay.
He was a boss. He was building airfields and communication systems down there. But and he did a bunch. He was a big hero in Vietnam and stuff like that, a helicopter pilot. But he told me before he died, he did a lot of stuff he was told to do in Vietnam and there. That's why I was promoted to those places. But he said it got to a point that he couldn't do it anymore. He told me when he died 11 years ago, right when he was dying, he said, all this stuff you're covering is real. He goes, I got out of this in the late 80s when we found out they were using the airfields to fly kids out of Guatemala, orphanages, we don't know where. And then he and a bunch of guys got out then. And he said Reagan didn't know, but it was Herbert Walker above him. And now you hear all about Guatemala and trafficking. This is a lot bigger now. Exponentially, but it's been going on a while. And so my mom's dad was involved in a lot of inventions and things behind the scenes, more in the DARPA, ARPA type stuff. And we never learned what that was. So I grew up around hearing him talk about just politics in general. And my dad was been really informed, been a lot involved in just all sorts of interesting science things. And then a lot of his family were involved in clandestine stuff. And I'm in the muscle end of it too. So I just grew up.
What does that mean? Wet work?
Yeah, stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I grew up around that. And I didn't realize that I was like growing up and, around this. But they were all anti-globalists, anti-New World Order, knew all about it. And were saying the government's being taken over and it's bad. And I'd be like 15, and Limbaugh was just coming on really hot then, syndicated. I'm like, Limbaugh is great. And they're like, that's bull. The Republicans are controlled too. CFR, blah, 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 blah. That's all controlled paradigm. Now it's not. And I don't think Limbaugh was controlled. The point was he wasn't to the level of their knowledge and saying all that. So they were just like, hey, kid, that's not what's going on.
Right.
And read this book. And so if you want to, my mother has got, a degree in history. And so the house was full of history books. And I loved comic books. I loved, the pulp fiction written here in Texas, Conan the Barbarian. I was a really good reader. So I was, reading, teenage stuff when I was like 8, 9, 10, and then college stuff by the time I was a teenager. And so I was just as much as I could read of that. And then about 8 or 9, I started wanting to read the history books around, and my parents wouldn't buy me a lot of junk. I had to, get a job for a bicycle because I wanted to be hardworking. But if I wanted encyclopedias off TV, and back then there were TV ads constantly, so they got me the Wild Wild West encyclopedia set, and World War I encyclopedia set, and World War II encyclopedia set. And if I just saw the ads and wanted, my dad had he loved encyclopedias. The house was just full of books, and so it was his office and everywhere else. And then they would say, fine. I'd write the number down. My mom or dad would call, and then usually once a month you get a new encyclopedia. Yeah. But we had encyclopedias every few days, different types coming. And they were picture encyclopedias, quote, for adults and kids, but they were tailored to everybody. But I would read all those encyclopedias by the time I was 10 or 11. And then I started reading Rise and Fall of the Third Reich by Scheer, Heinz Hobel's Order of the Death Set. I thought that was really fascinating. Then I wanted to know about Russian history. And then I read Julius Caesar's Battle for Gaul. I read some of the other, compilations of things they'd written in books, Marcus Aurelius, things like that. And I started reading Socrates, Plato, all that stuff. And then I hit puberty. And I played sports and stuff too. I wasn't a bookworm. I was just swimming and, soccer and football. And then I just went girl crazy and started, Dallas. I grew up in Rockwall, but even there it was more, that was kind of the old school, a lot of fist fights, a lot of that stuff. I got, into that.
Yeah, you were a tough guy in a tough school.
Yeah, it was a pretty nice school, but it was still politically correct. And if you want to get point blank about it, it was cliques. And so if you weren't in the certain redneck club, and there was other redneck clubs, then they would start fights with you, the seniors when you're freshmen, or kids that had flunked 3 times when you're in 7th or 8th grade. And, I had a lot of black friends. They were great. But there was also, some of the black kids would beat up the smaller white kids. And so by 6th grade, there'd be people that had flunked a few grades trying to beat me up. And I came home with black eyes. And my dad said, we got to fight harder. One time, I got a bunch of guys jumped me when I was and broke my leg. And my dad didn't file charges or anything. He said, you'll kick their ass later. My dad wasn't like Mr. Tough Guy, but that was how he was. And that was old school. I saw the new Reagan movie, and it's based on a true story where the kids come to beat him up. The mom goes, go out and fight him and close the door. That's how it was.
That's right.
But then I got attention for that and thought it was great by like the 7th grade. So that I just started if I told all the stories, it would sound like I was making it up. I put a bunch of people in the hospital, put people in comas, and they dug around. The Democrats went and found stories about it, then twisted what actually happened. But then they took me out of high school when I was 16, sent me to the ranch for a year, and I worked for a large animal vet in East Texas.
What's the ranch?
It doesn't really have a name. Okay. It's just Jones. It's been there forever. So
it's your ranch.
Yeah, home place.
Yeah, okay.
It used to be really big. Now it's mainly woods. Over time, they've sold it down to a few thousand acres of woods.
Yeah.
And there's some pastures and stuff. But I went to the ranch. They got me a job with a large animal vet. I did that for a year. And then my dad sold his dental offices here in Dallas. And we moved to Austin, and I finished 2 years of high school. So I was in high school 5 years. And you got straight A's then. And became a prep and just wanted to get out. But Austin was more liberal, the good side of liberal. So no fighting, nothing ever happened. I think there was one fight in 2 years there. I just kept my mouth shut and hung out with college kids, and I was done. And so I've never been in any trouble since then. But I got arrested quite a bit. I put in solitary confinement. They always dropped it because I never started the fights. But when they, police pull up and there's a big guy, with blood coming out of his ears and having convulsions on the ground, they take you to jail.
Yeah.
And one time I didn't get a hearing for about a week and a half. So I was in, they would take you from Rockwall out to the Temple. Back then was the big juvenile. And let me tell you, a week and a half in juvenile I never want to go back to jail after that. And I was like, hey, just send me away. I want it, because by then everybody wanted to fight me. I mean, I'd be in a McDonald's with a girlfriend, and there'd be some big guy come in and go, you put my little brother, come, I'm gonna kill your ass. Some huge guy. I mean, it would be on. And then I was in the McDonald's parking lot fighting this guy, and he was like a convict, and he was kicking my ass, even though I could fight really good. And then some other guy jumps out and attacks him. It was different culture. That's kind of faded away, but people that knew Texas 35 years ago will tell you that's how it was. Very rough. If you looked at somebody wrong in Dallas or anywhere around it in the late 80s, early 90s, you were going to be in a fight.
So
it was kind of like the old westerns where they you look at me wrong at the bar, but actually based on real stuff.
Yeah. So this is
I'm not trying to act tough. I've never even told these stories really.
So this is high school? Yeah,
I was a hellion from about 12 to 16. So
bookworm to hellion.
Yes. Well, the testosterone kicked in.
Yeah. And then you graduate from high school.
Yep.
What happened?
I went a couple of years to community college. I had decent grades. I could go to college, but I went and checked out the RTF thing. I kind of wanted to do that. And I went and checked it out, and it was just way behind because I was already reading books about it. And I was like, computers are going to be the thing, but we're not. It was like whole courses for a couple of years on the history of radio and Marconi and the Mercury Theater and all that's interesting. Mm-hmm. And then all their theories were like 10-year-old stuff. So I would put in resumes. They laughed at me. They even played some of my tapes on local radio and said, this guy wants a job. I'll never get one. Where I did like fake ads and also broadcast. Mm. So I went, hey, Access TV. So when I was 20, I went and did Access TV, instantly got popular. And then I got a call from a guy.
What were you doing?
I mean, I was talking about the New World Order, same stuff. When people find 30-year-old tapes, they go, damn, this all happened.
Yeah.
I mean, now those videos from 25, 26, 27, even they found 30-year-old tapes.
Yeah.
And it's me in a control room. I didn't have a crew, so I'm in the control room at Access TV, and the clock types down. It's like a soapbox. You're on air. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm holding up magazines and talking. Right. Even those have been found. And then a guy named, his handle was Sharkman. He'd been national on Z-Rock back when I was there, but it imploded down to one station in Austin, 98.9, and they were shifting from that to talk, G. Gordon Liddy, Rush Limbaugh, all that. And he said, hey, you want a Saturday show? I'll give you one. I won't pay you. Just come in. And they'd already been on air a few weeks, and nobody was calling their local shows that came on after, those Stern and Liddy and all them. And instantly, all 10 phone lines light up. And he goes, fine. And then I said, can I make money being a salesman? And then they put me on weeknights about a year. And then I found out about satellites and talked to a group in Michigan that could put me up. And then I put it up, and I called the stations myself, got on more than 50 stations by the time I was like 23.
Wow.
And then it kind of that's what happened. So it was all just it was all very exciting. And then I said, instead of having a newsletter, a coffee mug, to get the word out and make money and expand what I'm doing, because I want my own little studios, I said, I'll just make documentary films. And so computers were just getting affordable then, but it would take hours to edit 1 minute. So I was in there shooting on a DV cam. This is like 27 years ago. But then you'd have to still dump it down to 3/4-inch tape, and I'm at the Access studio editing it. So, and then those exploded and brought in a lot of revenue. So I got a little office, hired a few crew, and that's basically what happened. By about 1998, I had an office and crew and was doing my own thing and built a little studio, and also had one at my house.
Where did you get your entrepreneurial spirit and expertise to be able to put all this together?
I mean, I had jobs from the time I was about 10. I remember I was asking for a new bike, and my dad said, you need a job. And I was pretty smart. I go, well, there's child labor laws. He started laughing so hard. He goes, watch this. And there was a big marina there in Rockwall by the golf course. And he went and talked to one of the old vets. My dad had a couple boats there. He said, will you get my son working here, pay him whatever you want? He goes, sure. And because I would do work about a year into the job, they were paying me a lot more, and I was power washing boats and stuff. And then he got me a job after school. Then the school bus would drop me off at like 3:30 at a local veterinarian that did small animals. By the time I was about 11, and so I was cleaning out cages, and then pretty soon, helping sedate the dachshund before it gets neutered or spayed. So I kind of had the veterinarian thing there. And then I worked in fast food jobs and all that kind of stuff, and I had a lot of entrepreneurs in my family's history, and so I just knew that I was like, why am I going to go to college? Which most people know now. I'm not saying it's all bad, but for most jobs, it's kind of a waste.
For this job, it absolutely is.
Absolutely. So I just
as long as you're an intelligent person and you don't mind reading an awful lot.
Exactly. So I was just a long term, figure it out as you go, and then I stuck in Bohemian Grove in 2000.
Now, hang on just a second. Before that, you ran for the House of Representatives in Texas, did you not?
Only for a week.
Only for a week.
Yeah, one of my friends said, hey, it'll be great. You can get up on the soapbox of these debates. And he wanted to be the campaign manager. And as soon as I talked to a lawyer and saw the campaign laws, and then I was not be able to do my show all the time, and I was literally having to go to like coffees with the politicos and have them hand me sheets about my policies. And I knew most of the stuff, but I was trying to research it. And I thought, this is the bottom floor.
Yeah.
I said, no way. I don't want to. I said, I want to affect things in the media. I don't want to, try to run for office when I'm 25 years old.
Right. So then you went to the Bohemian Grove. Take me from.
Well, I was kind of jumping ahead because I've already. People never ask me these questions. I never really tell these.
I know. I honestly don't know how it all started with you. So I think this is fascinating.
Okay. Well, like 98, I had the number one show in the time slot at 9. It won the local readers poll a couple times.
Yeah.
And then it started getting picked up nationally. Jay Leno talked about my show and played some clip, and it got picked up in the national news, and I started getting on, like Hard Copy and Extra would come do stories without me even asking, and I started getting called and flown out to Hollywood every few weeks to be on conspiracy panel shows and stuff. And the management got political pressure on them that owned the chain of stations. They were like in Scranton, Ohio. It was Shamrock Communications. And they literally flew the general manager down there, and he said, listen, you're a good talk show host, but you're going to do like relationships and sports and stuff. And I said to him, I said, listen, I already have a little office, and I'm selling films, and I've already got a studio. I was already doing a 2-hour show during the day and then going up there and driving across town to do a show at night. And they laughed because you're not on radio stations and all this stuff. Because I was like 25 years old by then. And I was like, well, yeah, I am. He goes, no, you're not, kid. Don't sit there and lie to me. And I was like, wow, he doesn't know I hooked an ISDN line up here and had permission, and I'm syndicating this show. But they did not even know that the show had already gotten a lot of attention. And I wasn't rude to him. I didn't lie, but I said, okay. I just figured, well, these guys don't know what they're talking about. They're going to go back to Ohio. And then they called up 2 months later, and the general manager called me at the local station. He says, you got to stop, or they're going to fire you. And I said, I can't stop. Go ahead and fire me. He goes, well, I'm not firing you. I'm going to run the YMCA here in Austin. There's a great guy named Mark Easter. He said, I'm leaving. He goes, because he was all about freedom of speech. And a few months later, they fired me. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. It was all over the national news. And it was because they thought the left's like, we got this guy. And I wasn't even really super right-wing, more libertarian, but I didn't like the Clintons and stuff. I was talking about them a lot on air and actually having some big guests on. And so, boom, all of a sudden, I got a whole bunch more radio stations out of that. Suddenly, because I'd sent flyers out and called them, and I'd done ads in, what was that, Radio Flyer, whatever it was?
R&R?
Yeah, you could put ads like, I'm a guest. Well, I did that as a talk show host and said, also pick up my show. And so I was doing 4 or 5 interviews a day, or sometimes 20 if I wanted them. And I was going on a lot of the late night shows and things. So, boom, as soon as I got fired, then all of a sudden some big stations picked me up.
So did you see yourself more as an Art Bell or a serious kind of journalist?
I didn't cover the UFO thing very much because I couldn't prove it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really think of myself as a journalist. I thought, here's a UN report, because I'd go to the library all the time. Back then you couldn't get them online. I'd go to the UT library. And the librarians loved it because I wanted stuff that was in the stacks. I say, I hear this is here. They'd go back. They said, come back in a week. They'd give me all this stuff because they love that. And I would be on radio. That's why I started doing a website to make a documentary so I could actually show people. Like, oh, you don't believe there's UN signs at the parks. You don't believe there's a treaty, signing it over as collateral, which they now admit. And a lot of countries sign their national parks over to Pfizer as collateral if the vaccine hurts people. I mean, Brazil was in a fight over that. I mean, and I was just exposing all this wild stuff. And to me, I was reading books written by Henry Kissinger, going and getting them and reading it on air, like you do, but with a chalkboard and with all the graphics. And so I didn't even see it as like I've got credentials. I'm like,
no, you're just somebody discovering it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you wake up at 2 a.m. to the dog's barking and the neighbor's house is on fire. You're not a firefighter. You're not an arson specialist. You call 911. And you go knock on your door to make sure your neighbors are okay. There's fire shooting out. I didn't like. So I was more of an alarmist. I mean, I would say kind of a Paul Revere type. And I don't know exactly what's going on here. But look at this. And then I would go down when they were trying to pass a law to ban semi-autos at the legislature. And I'd have a little video camera. And I'd have one crew member with me. And we caught this on tape. The NRA picked it up. It was huge in the late 90s. Stuff like this is an example. And there's literally the gun control advocate going 100, 200, 300, 400 to the guys that had just testified. I'd just been in there. He was a white guy. They were young black guys who were paid, we later learned, weren't thugs like they said, weren't criminals, to get up and say, I'm a criminal, ban the guns because I'm dangerous. They were exploiting these black guys. It hits the news everywhere. And then they go, Jones is racist, making black people look bad. So I started learning about, how that worked. And so really, it was basically everything. I mean, I would go out and protest the KKK because I knew that they were just trying to create division. I'd also had articles that a lot of leftist foundations were involved in the past funding them. And so that would blow up. And so it was like an alarmist, someone trying to warn people, but a little bit of stunts like Howard Stern.
Yeah.
Because I love to get the attention for the show.
Right.
And so I wasn't even trying to define. I wasn't sitting around thinking. I'd see something on the local news or read something in the paper or see something online, or I was getting email tips by the late 90s, and I would just say, I'm going to go do this. And people say, oh, they have this big statue and do this ritual at Bohemian Grove. And I'm like, I don't believe that. And so listeners sent me old magazine articles and stuff where CBS reporter arrested and all that. And so that's a whole nother interesting story.
John Ronston, right?
Yes.
He went with you.
Yes.
As I was talking to him probably 2004 or 5 about a book that he had written.
Them.
Yeah. And he said, I don't know what your relationship is with him, but he said, there's a lot of stuff I don't agree with Alex Jones, but I went with him. He said, I saw it.
Yeah.
And he said, I thought Alex was crazy. He said, but I saw it. What did you see? And how did you get in?
Okay, it's a 2,700-acre redwood grove in the most beautiful place in America, Sonoma County. It's about 15 miles west of Santa Rosa. And it's on the Russian River, and it's a huge uncut redwood grove, just as big as the ones you see in the national parks.
Wow.
So it's a gorge with redwood trees at one entrance, and the other end exit isn't an entrance or exit. It's just a cliffside over the Russian River. And they've got over 100 camps in it. Some are big and nice, depending on how elite you are. They have like the chalet where world leaders and royalty go up on the hill. But they're all basically log cabins and open bars. And really, it's a big art thing. At the time, I went with the sensational stuff of the occultic stuff in the ritual that they do on the middle of July every year on I guess it's called Midsummer's Eve or whatever. And that's what blew up with the evangelical Christians and stuff, and I am a Christian. And definitely it's occultic, and there's vibes of that everywhere. But really, Mark Twain founded it in the 1880s, 1870s. And then President Taft started going there by railroad, and then the Republican establishment took it over. And so there was kind of a Germanic, Druidic spinoff of Skull and Bones that kind of took it over through the Republicans and Skull and Bones members. And so it kind of has that seal on it of the Skull and Bones Germanic mystery school, hyper Masonic, super secret, inner Masonic stuff. But really, it's 1,000 members and 1,000 guests. And when I was there, I mean, I saw Danny Glover from a distance. I saw Clint Eastwood, and I didn't run up because there's security everywhere. And I only snuck in. I snuck in during the day, went around the security in the woods. They beef it up a lot now. But people get in easily. Not now, it's really beefed up, but they always catch you because reporters, there's been hundreds of articles. They always walk up and start asking questions. And they go, well, who are you with? What are you doing? I didn't do that. I snuck in, tried to just go, sit down in one of the outside areas and not be noticed. And Ronson thought it was a joke, but he had an insider that was a member. And so Ronson snuck in. After he saw me get in, he went in with the member that had all the code words and all the stuff as a guest, but not as an official guest. And then Ronson had me sign a contract, but later he talked about it, so I can. He said, we, for liability, can't shoot the footage, and we've seen you shoot some hidden footage. A little DV can and a fanny pack. They didn't have little tiny cameras back then, as you know, for kids out there. And I had to climb up on the edge of a redwood, knot route and kind of get above the people and shoot. That's why it's all canted, and cameras falling over and things. But it's still dramatic footage, and so I got in, tried to keep to myself, had sheriff's deputies and Secret Service twice while I was just sitting over an overlook and over in the woods, just at a table. You know, I even brought a book with me so it looked like I was just hanging out. They're like, who are you with? What's going on? I'm like, and I had enough of the inside stuff that I'd read in some of the literature. I said, I'm with the Hillbillies, because that's a Texas-style camp where the Bushes go. They said, really? Okay, well, who are you here with? And I said, I'm here with Ron. Yeah, and they go, okay. And the Secret Service came over and questioned me another time. And I said, that's it, I've been questioned twice. So I came down off because it takes, it's a couple miles down. I came off the overlook with the Secret Service questioned me over the Russian River, and I got into the woods, got to the first camp, and nobody was there, and I climbed up underneath the log cabin deck, and there were like literally centipedes and spiders. It was like Indiana Jones' Temple of Doom, but not as bad. But it was quite a few, and I guess 'cause that's where they are. They're under the house, and so I wait till the light starts going down, and I had my map, and I'd only gotten in some and then gone trying to get it, because most of the camps are up at the start and up the hill. I'd gotten away from civilization waiting for nighttime, because I was in there about 4 and a half hours. I hang out a few hours underneath the log cabin. And again, people say, well, why is there not footage of that? It was little hour tapes. I'm having to start it and stop it. So I got myself going in, walking down there, got the overlook, tape stops. I know there's cameras, which I later saw and they later admit, so I don't reload it there. I just act really calm. I'm kind of hitting the button on and off. I go down, find the first camp, climb under it, reload it, get it ready, get it set, have like a handkerchief inside hanging over the front of the lens, because there's a hole cut in the fanny pack, those little DV cams. And it's getting dark. Okay, I think I can blend in. And so it's twilight. I've got the map. It's this side road right here. I start walking. People start to come out of camps. They're walking. And, oh, my gosh, there's the pond and there's the owl, the little lake, and there's bats flying around. It's twilight. But people are talking to each other. They're looking. I see Danny Glover. I'm walking. There's now all these big crowds of men coming in, hundreds and hundreds. And I say, okay, I'm gonna go through them and hide somewhere until it gets dark. They're going to question me. People are looking, hey, because they all kind of know each other. I go up the hill, and then down here are the biggest redwoods, the ones you can drive cars through. You know, the ones Yeah. And there's all these tables, and there's still people eating, and they're playing Hall of the Mountain King. Dun, 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 dun. And I look, there's a symphony playing, and it's just twilight, the light coming through, and bats and frogs chirping. I'm like, this is a badass party. And so I kind of walk up the hill. There was a whole kind of gay vibe going on, too. I had some of the greenskeepers, they go, hey, baby, and whistle at me. That went on a few times. Back then I was pretty good looking. And so I go, okay, it's getting dark. So I come back down the hill. Now almost everybody is flooding out from eating their dinner on these big picnic tables that I was going up the hill looking down on. They're coming out and going down to the owl. I go around them, wait till they're there, get up behind the crowd, but there's men standing in front of me, so I kind of climb up on the edge of one of the roots and shoot the video. And it was about an hour long, so we got it on the tape, because so I got shots of the people. I have shots all this down there while the music's playing. Then I've got the shot of the ritual, and then I'm sitting there going, okay, it's an owl. This is more theater, but the occult is what theater comes from, and TV and everything is anything occult, for those that don't know, is just pre-Christ or pre-Christianity. It just means hidden, because the mystery schools are hidden. And so they mixed in Babylonian, Druidic, Canaanite, Faustian stuff in the hour. They bring out a hearse that's horse-drawn with the effigy of a child. They call on the goddess to come, and they call on these other gods to come, so it's kind of an amalgamation, like the Bible says, of all these religions. They then put the child there on the effigy. But back then, I later learned, because I got some of their annals, these guys would die and their widows would mail me annals. And then once people didn't know they had annals, then they shot up in the market. And then when people were selling them on eBay for $5,000 a piece.
What are the annals?
Every 10 years, they put a big, thick book out of the annals of Bohemian Grove.
Okay.
So as I got those annals later, I'm kind of skipping ahead, I learned, that was Walter Cronkite that was doing the voice of the owl. Wow. So they're inside the owl, and it's got slits they can look out of with a sound control, and you've got like famous actors and people doing the voices, so that's very interesting. And I'm not saying they're all devil worshippers, even bad. It's like it's more of a crazy art festival, but there is an occultic thing to it.
I wrote a book called The Eye of Moloch, and in it I posited a theory, and I have no idea if it's true or not, but I posited a theory that most of the people are going and they're just having a good time. They have no idea. But there are some that understand what is being done, and that it is an actual ancient ritual. But people are doing it, for the most part, because they think it's fun. Would you agree with that or not?
Well, that's why you're Glenn Beck. I'm up here speeding through, trying to just give you all the intel. You're really good at summing it all up there. No, that's exactly what it is. And that's the nature of the occult, or secret societies or intelligence agencies, is there's the inner group that knows. That's exactly what I was going to say earlier, is they're just recruiting really cool, interesting musicians and people. Even, Kid Rock talked about being there. And they're like, hey, kid, you're here to play music for us. And that's exactly how it is. So they're there getting an eye on people for 2 weeks. Then they have other club times they go, but it's that 2 weeks, the second half of July, to kind of examine the produce and see who they could promote, who they could use. And absolutely, I've had occult experts look at it. I've read your book. I've read other books. And definitely, I was sitting there in the crowd thinking, they're not taking this really seriously as it was starting. I said, this is just fun, because I hadn't seen the whole ritual yet, and I hadn't had time to go back and look what they were actually saying. But there were a lot of the men in the crowd, when the light was on their faces, the torches, right by me going, and one time I said, that's really neat. This is a very important ritual. And you can actually barely on the tape hear it. This is a very important ritual. And this is some billionaire, you could tell. And I was recognizing a lot of them, but, I know that guy, but you couldn't place them. And some of these really rich, powerful people, and I was looking around in the light, because I'm there at the back. There's a few behind me and in front of me, and I'm looking at their faces. And I'm like, whoa, this is like I'm at church, but this is like I've been to.
So what is the ritual that they do? What is the meaning behind it?
It's basically the oldest story that healers do over and over again. I mean, you have in the time of Abraham, God saying, go get me a ram and sacrifice it, because that was food, that was meat. That was a big deal to give this up, and then to say God's number one. And then God says, give me your son, actually, to see if he'll go all the way. And the angel stops him. And if you look at every culture and society, that's basically where sacrifice comes from. So this is more of what they did in ancient England and in Europe with the sin eaters, where a person had died, and they would put a piece of bread on their stomach, and they would have someone come in that would eat it who was willing to take their sin. So instead of Christ taking on our sins as the ultimate sacrifice, they put the sins on the effigy of a child, and then it begs for its life, and they say, no, for the next year, our cares are gone, all of our problems are put on this. And then these men that are taking it serious, some people are like, interesting, those are the guests. The members that are serious, and I'd say it was about a third of them just from the group I was looking at, because it would light up quite a bit. I could see their faces, and I'm not looking into the camera, I'm looking at them. And they were trying to transmute their problems onto this ritual to have, you reap what you sow, or karma, however they see it, pass over them and be put into this effigy that they then burn. And it was very hardcore. So, and then again, after I saw that, I brought it to some theologians, but also mainline historians, and they basically all said the same thing. They said this is going back to 4,000 years ago in Egypt, and walking right through all these different Molech, all these different gods.
Yep.
And then it ends with Druids in Europe, and then Faust, which is Dr. Faust, probably a fictional thing, but it's a story of, can he at the end escape the devil? And of course he really could have, but he didn't know he could. And so they're saying, no, we do know, and we are Faust, and we're beating the devil. So it was a very sophisticated, very dark, beyond black magic, because they're not, it's an effigy, but they're not like trying to hurt somebody with this energy they've built, if you believe in that. They're trying to put it, of the bad things they've already done, into this interdimensional cauldron, basically, and then send it to another plane. That's how I would describe it.
What is their goal? Are these, like, you look at the WEF, people say, well, that is just, those are just people going up to ski, and they have no real power. We can now see the results of their work with, the Great Reset and everything else. Those things are now implemented. So that con of they don't have any power is over. What are these people trying to do?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I remember the New York Times in 2012. I'm in Chantilly, Virginia, covering Bilderberg. It's this big conference center, golf course, shut down. There's helicopters, there's Marines, there's Secret Service everywhere, guys talking in there with submachine guns. We have it all on tape, put films out, and you were covering it some of the time, and Drudge was, and that was it. And they would have articles saying we were making it up to that point. And they had a New York Times article that Jones was basically having hallucination that he was in the woods in Virginia, that there was a global meeting of elites. So back then it didn't exist. Then, because of you covering it, and I'm giving credit, you covered it, and so did Drudge. All of a sudden they went, okay, it's there, but it's no big deal. Mm-hmm. They started then putting the list out of their agenda and the members, but not the guest. And so that's the political arm at the top of the pyramid. And you have the heads of the CFR, the heads of the Travel Commission, the head of the EU, the head of the UK. I was there once, the King of Spain, because I stayed in the building after it was supposedly shut, and they threw me out. And they go, dun, 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 and here comes the King of Spain walking in the front as I'm going out. I mean, just wild stuff. And I got footage of David Rockefeller, Henry Kissinger, helicopters landing. Not just there, I covered it in Europe, I covered it in England, I covered it in Canada, I covered it in Istanbul, Turkey, I covered it in Chantilly twice, and the heads of all the other big global management corporate systems, the Trilateral Commission, CFR, they're all there. And if you look at the 100 members, it's the heads of all the major top 100 corporations, the heads of the boards. Mm-hmm. And then you learn most of them are going to Bohemian Grove. And then Helmut Kohl. No, it was Helmut Schmidt, I think, before him, when it was still West Germany. But it was Helmut Kohl after him. In fact, my producer's over there, this memory, I don't want to get this wrong. Look up Helmut Schmidt, German chancellor. But yeah, he wrote a book that I have a copy of that you can't even find, Men and Power as a Political Retrospective. And in the book, he says, we have our own, I don't get the chancellor's name wrong, but it wasn't Kohl. He goes, we have our own groves where we do our own Druidic rituals, and we love them, but Bohemian Grove's the best. So it's a real... Skull and Bones presidents went and made it a Skull and Bones hangout. Mm-hmm. So if you wonder what Skull and Bones do once they leave Yale, this is their playhouse, and so it's really an extension of Skull and Bones. And so whether whereas you see Hollywood and people, they're into different types of occult, flat out Satanism or mysticism or Kabbalah or stuff like that. When you get into the Republican leadership, at least in old Skull and Bones, they go to church. I'm not saying that they might be Christians. I don't know, but right. But when they're not at their day job, they are very serious death cult members. I mean, that's what they call it, the Order of Death. And then you see the Nazis wearing the same thing. It's there's something to it.
I think we're experiencing a death cult now. I mean, I think it's Malthusian at its nicest. It's an absolute death cult that we're dealing with now. I mean, the love of blood, from abortion to gender mutilation to war, it's remarkable how this cult is just all about death.
They believe, from their own writings and statements, people that I know are into this occult organization, but in their public statements, that they are the alpha apex predator. And that just like if you're in a city that borders woods and you don't have any coyotes or wolves or mountain lions anymore, the deer overpopulated, they fall apart. They see it as they're the wolves doing us a favor, culling the sheep. And that it's their job through social Darwinism that, as you said, comes out of Malthus. And Malthus just said, starve the poor, give them diseases, crowd them all together, societal collapse in 100 years. He was wrong. You're right. He was nice compared to them who directly dumb you down and poison you and want to get rid of you. And when you actually study this deeper, they believe they're doing us a favor. But when you look at their affect and their own families, their behavior, they're really sinister, greedy, hateful people who pretend like they're filling this niche, this need of the social Darwinists. For people that don't know what that is, obviously the robber barons in the 1880s, 90s, and into the trust busting, had articles written and books written about, hey, it's good that we're enslaving and cheating and forcing other companies to shut down and monopolies, because that's just the way it is. Might makes right. And so now they've had to hide it because of the kind of classical liberalism that was against that. They then became liberalism so they can wrap themselves in that when they truly are the death cult. And if you had to use anything close to it, it's a high-tech Nazi-type operation wrapped in a liberal package.
Wow.
More of Alex Jones here in a second. Imagine if you had the ability just to wave your hand and abortion would no longer be legal. Imagine the lives that we could save. Tragically, that's not going to happen. Abortion has actually gone up since the overturning of Roe versus Wade. You wouldn't think that just by hearing what's happening in politics, the world of politics now. But it is true. We cannot save babies without saving the moms, and we can't save the moms or the babies without compassion. And that's where preborn comes in. The Ministry of Preborn empowers young expectant moms in crisis to choose life. They've rescued hundreds of thousands of babies through an ultrasound. That's it. An ultrasound. Well, that's it for the baby. Mom doubles the chances of saying, I want to save this baby instead of I want to abort, if she just sees the ultrasound and hears the heartbeat. Then most of them feel alone. They don't have anybody in their lives that agree with keeping the baby or any way to support the baby. That's when, after they introduce, they also say, we will be here for the first 2 years of life. We will help you with the clothes. We'll help you with everything that you need. Will you help rescue babies' lives through compassion? Donate. Dial pound 250. Say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, keyword baby, or go to preborn.com/Glenn. So right after the Bohemian Grove is when you really start to take off, and that is after 9/11. That's when people really, I think, start to know your name. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah. And good or ill, you are the original truther, aren't you?
Yes. I mean, look, I'd seen Operation Northwoods that was declassified about 2 years before 9/11. Mm-hmm. ABC News, U.S. government planned to hijack jets, bomb buildings, mass shootings as a pretext to invade Cuba and war with the Soviet Union. And I knew that Kennedy killed the plan and fired L.L. Lemonster and Curtis LeMay on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I knew that Operation Ajax to overthrow Mossadegh in 1953 had been staged. That was declassified. Kermit Roosevelt did that. I knew that our ships were not attacked in the Gulf of Tonkin in 1964. And literally hundreds of other examples. It's pretty much established that in 1898, William McKinley's Navy and the sinking of the Maine in Havana Harbor to get us to the Spanish-American War, our own government blew that up. That didn't mean I don't think there's radical Islam and that it's a serious threat and that it wasn't involved in some levels. Mm-hmm. So the media misrepresented a lot of what I said, but I was saying before they blew up the towers that I thought they were going to blow them up because the feds had, and I interviewed Ahmad Salam, who was an Egyptian security asset and working for the FBI, and the Muslims were going to bomb the World Trade Center the first time, in 92, and he recorded the Fed saying, make a real bomb and go ahead and basically let it happen. So I interviewed him. So I was already really on this in Oklahoma City, and I interviewed the witnesses and the police and what really happened, the bombs they found that were unexploded in the building and all the eyewitnesses. So I was already, really dialed up on that. So the morning it happened, back then, stuff wasn't archived on the web. I was at my home studio. I had my other small studio, and we had like VHS machines and DVD burners and a DV cam hooked to TV. We could record TV that way, but I was on the air that day. I just went on, not just my own show, but did all the other shows, a little network I was on. From the time it happened, I ran out the shower. I just ate breakfast and took a shower, and then heard it was happening, ran in, turned it on, started covering it with the TV on while it happened, and then we saw the buildings collapse the way they did. We saw the reports. And for me, I said it looked like bombs. I said this could be an inside job. And then about a mile away, there was a pizza place. And I've been on there since until 4:30. And I was going to come back on in a few hours on my own nighttime show I did. And I told my wife at the time, I said, I'm going to go get a pizza. You want any? She goes, no. So I drive. And I listen to CBS radio back when they had CBS News, live coverage on 590 in Austin. And I pull up, get the pizza, and I'm driving back. They go, all right, Building 7, the Solomon Brothers building, could damage other buildings. They've decided to control demolition. They're going to bring it down. Anybody goes finds the archive, you'll find that. And we have other news saying it. So I'm going, okay, they're going to bring it down the building. That takes time. So I'm eating the pizza in the car, listening to this. I go, I got to get back on here. So I run in there and I say, they're saying on CBS they're getting ready to blow up this building. So I start taking callers, and they go, yeah, I heard that on NPR just now. But back then, stuff didn't get archived, so you just heard it once.
Right.
Just like they had a Lone Gunman episode that aired in March, a spinoff of X-Files, where the government hijacks a jet to fly in the World Trade Center as a pretext to invade Afghanistan. But they stop it. I didn't even know about that show because I didn't really watch entertainment much. And even like Variety wrote a year later, why did anybody notice that there was a show with Chris Carter? Then I talked to Chris Carter and his people. Years later, they go, no, the CIA came to us and told us to make that. Ask Chris Carter. Strike me out of the line. And then I had X-Files actors on the show talking about it. People can pull that up. I'm not making this up. So if I have to say one thing, it's things like Building 7. And then I interviewed Barry Jennings, and then he died 2 weeks later, the deputy head of emergency management. And he said they told him that they'd blown it up and he had to get out and that bombs were going to destroy it. And then I interviewed cops that I saw on PBS saying, get back, they're going to bring that down. I went to New York a bunch, actually found the officers on tape. And they said, yeah, it was on the Red Cross channel. I'm not saying the Red Cross is bad, folks, but it's the oldest intelligence agency there is. Whoever was doing it was using the Red Cross channel. And they go, get back. And they heard the countdown in their earpiece. And then Building 7, boom, 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 falls. And then you've got BBC, CNN, and a bunch of others. This footage is all out there for your viewers saying, anybody on X, when this clip gets posted, they'll post it all under. That's what's great about it. I don't have to do the work anymore. I just say, remember this clip? It's all right there. And I didn't see this till years later because I wasn't watching all the channels. 3 years after 9/11, NBC, CNN, BBC, they all decided, I'm not saying they all have the same group, but they get coordinated. Archives have gotten cheaper. They go, we're all going to archive 9/11. Well, nobody thought to not have that. So I hadn't seen the BBC on 2 channels and Aaron Brown on CNN and all these others going, that building has been destroyed. It fell in its own footprint. And they're going, well, it's still there. So they gave them the order, said it was about to come down in its own footprint. First they said they're going to blow it up, and they go, no, people talk about that. No, it's going to fall in its own footprint. On 3 channels, they get it early. They jump the gun, and it hasn't fallen, and then it falls 27 minutes later. And that reminds me of JFK, the movie, that's really, I think, very accurate. They had already put Oswald's picture out, had it ready, and they published it in foreign newspapers in Asia right around the time, minutes after Kennedy shot. No one had gotten him for hours, Lee Harvey Oswald, coming out of the theater. So it was kind of like that. They jumped the gun. Now, you look at that. I'm not saying there weren't Muslims. I'm not saying they don't want to kill us. I'm not saying we shouldn't be shipping them all in here. My God. I'm totally... people are like, you don't care about that? You're un-American. No, I'm saying you can sit here with your crew, and Glenn, and you can go over everything I just said, and we've got the newscast of all that. And it's there, and it is incredible. And it just Building 7. And then we've got the raw footage of the Pentagon. And there's nothing. And there's 3 rings blown straight through, and the witnesses said they saw a missile go into it. I don't know what happened.
I know somebody that was there and saw the plane.
I believe him then. I believe him. What did they say they saw?
The plane. They were in a meeting. They walked out. They have horrible burns from it. They walked out of their office. They went to the bathroom, which was just past, and everything went through their office. And when they came out, they came out, and there it was, burning.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
I want. There's no footage of that, though.
I don't know.
I'm not saying they're lying. I've interviewed a bunch of the people, including, I forget her name, black lady that, I think had her baby with her that day. Mm-hmm. She smelled all the cordite, and it shot through multiple rings of the Pentagon that's armored steel. But again, and listen, I hope 9/11 wasn't some type of inside job. I believed it at the time I said it, and all I say is you can't not look at Building 7 and look at all the other things that went on there, and no steel buildings have ever collapsed like that until that day. And so I think it's very, very suspicious.
I will tell you that I think you are not a thinking human being, especially when you see what happened to Sandy Berger. there was some connection with our government and 9/11. Whether they planned it, knew it, I don't know. But you can't look at what, Sandy Berger goes in and he goes through all the records of past presidents, both Republican and Democrat, takes papers out, destroys them, and then he gets his security clearance taken away for a year. Somebody was hiding something. I don't know what it was, but somebody was definitely hiding something.
Well, that's the thing. There's thousands of other points. We got on the 9/11 rabbit hole for a million years.
Yeah.
The Joint Chiefs are going to have, for 6 months, a meeting on 9/11 in New York to cancel that. Mayor Willie Brown told the San Francisco Chronicle that he was told not to fly the day before to New York. It was in local news that mosque and places were saying, but also just regular business, don't go in the towers tomorrow or a couple of days. I mean that was in the news, and then we would cover it from the local news. They'd have national news saying I was making it up. So I think one thing that helped blow me up is that they would also go, this guy's flamboyant and young, and he says some stuff sometimes that isn't exactly right. We'll just attack him every time there's a story and say, oh, this lunatic said it. But people already had such low trust for the system, they went, well, I'll see what this guy's all about. So that's been the weird paradox is, it's like I'm radioactive, but the more they attack me, so many people don't trust the system, it sends me more viewers. But that's why it's polarizing. It creates the people that hate me, and it creates the people that like me. So, yeah, it's been very interesting.
There are several ways you can try to deal with aches and pains in your life. Probably the most popular one is the stuff that, masks the pain. But then going about your day, in a fog, that sucks. You can grit your teeth and push through it. But you can only do that for so long before you need something different, something better. And the truth is, you need something that's going to defeat the pain, not just mask it. Let me tell you about Relief Factor. It's a daily 100% drug-free supplement that doesn't simply mask your pain for a short time. It helps your body eliminate it for good. It uses a unique formula of natural ingredients that support your body's response to inflammation. Over 1 million people have tried Relief Factor. 70% of them have gone on to order more. Give Relief Factor a try with their 3-week quick start. $19.95, less than $1 a day. Try it and see how it can help you turn back the clock on pain. ReliefFactor.com, 800-4-RELIEF. 800-4-RELIEF, ReliefFactor.com. Final segment now with Alex Jones. Let's skip ahead a bit to the Sandy Hook thing, the thing that got you into trouble. The first judgment was $1 trillion?
The first was $45 million in Texas.
Okay.
And then yes, in Connecticut,
yeah,
they asked for, folks, you're not going to believe this, you have to pull it up, and then they asked for the GDP of India, $2.67 trillion.
And you weren't making $2.6 trillion.
Oh, they lied and said I was worth $400 million. I mean, there's been a time where I had $10 million in my bank account and a couple big houses. I mean, I've never been. We're not talking live back money here, folks. No, but seriously, it was just to try to tell the story. I don't even feel like a victim. In fact, it taught me a lot and made me grow up a lot and made me be more careful. And now it's been such a learning experience. The last 6 years of lawfare and lies. And not understanding and thinking I knew a lot, and I'd like know how much I don't know. I mean, you could teach a college degree in this, understanding propaganda, PR, deep state, how it works. And I only understood it after the judgments because I was already found guilty by the judges. They had show trials on how guilty I was. So I'm guilty until proven how guilty. Not just innocent until proven guilty or guilty until proven innocent. I'm guilty. And they decide how guilty, literally. They had PR firms come out. You can pull up their names in New York and Connecticut and say, we did it. We're so proud of ourselves. So they admitted the whole thing. But the actual judgment in Connecticut's $1.5 billion now. That's what the judge cut it back to. And Texas is $45 million. So this is a very interesting story. And if you want me to encapsulate it, I can.
I want you, because we've talked about it before. But I want you to tell me 2 things. do you regret any of it? Did you make any mistakes in that? And was there a figure that you thought, I think that would be fair? I think they go hand in hand. If you don't think you made a mistake, there wouldn't be a figure.
That is a very complex question. There was a time before they even sued me that I would have paid them money and apologized because I already had. That I actually had gone from thinking it didn't happen to way before they sued me saying, yeah, that's not who I am. I barely covered it. And by the way, I'm sorry. And that only elicited, oh, now he admits he lied. And then the process of the PR firms and the fundraisers, hundreds of millions, and my name being used for years, this guy's bullying us, give us money, that they attach themselves to me. So to answer the question, at a time, I would have said I did things wrong, and I would have given them money. I offered them $70 million over 10 years, not even knowing I could make that to pay them. They said, no, that's not enough punishment. They said, we want to take you off the air and then chase you and hurt you. And they've said that in the news. It's not the families. Here's what happened. Almost 12 years ago.
Wow, this is getting deep.
At a previously closed school, run down, serious problems, no security cameras not working, all these problems. Adam Lanza gets a gun that his mother legally got. It was serious autism stuff. Goes in and kills kids and some teachers. I'm sitting back. 99% of what I did back then, especially, was cover what other people are saying and doing, give my opinion or show a news article. Hey, Bill Gates said, if we don't give old people care, we can hire 10 teachers. Here's a clip. I mean, it's what you do. I mean, you do a lot more investigative. They say 80% you just cover what's going on. And you say, look at this plane crashed, or look what AOC just said.
Yeah, give perspective according to my point of view.
Absolutely. So I'm just up there talking. It's a show. I like it, but it's also exhausting. So sometimes, I'm kind of going fast if I'm tired because I'm just trying to, when I'm tired, that's when I talk fast because I'm just kind of getting through it. But it's actually harder to slow down. So just slow down. Because if you understand how this was done to me, you understand how it's being done in society by the left to make everybody guilty of things they didn't do, like gun owners are responsible for mass shootings. No, it's the breakdown of society. The psychotropic drugs that admit on the label can cause psychotic breaks and mass murder, homicidal thoughts and ideations and actions. It's on the labels. So I'm sitting there, and that day there's helicopters and a guy in camo in the woods, and the witnesses reporting men in camo running by the windows. This is on the news. I have the news clips. Fog of war, maybe it's not true. Except there's footage of it. And I noticed in the depositions, the whole thing, the judge never wanted that talked about, and they never want to talk about it in the depositions. They would get really mad if we talk about the man in the woods, and that doesn't exist, you made that up. And I have the newscast, multiple ones with the guys in the woods, the cops stopping him in camo behind the school. So day one, to me, I've got a 4-hour show. It's happening, it's a tragedy. We cover it for like 30 minutes, come back to it later. Oh, this is terrible. Bet this kid's on drugs, whatever. Then the internet doesn't believe it and sees these anomalies and finds things that a lot of the anomalies turn out to not be accurate. Some have never been answered. And so it becomes this huge thing for a couple of years. None of my videos really went viral compared. I mean, there was videos with 50 million views, 100 million on YouTube that were these investigators and these professors in Florida and Wisconsin and school safety people. And I had a few of them on. And they'd been on news before, and they had credentials. And so they entered in evidence against me when they did sue me, 22 minutes. So they sued me. It's been almost 12 years, so they sued me 6 years ago. They sued me 5-6 years after it happened. About 5 years after it happened. And in the incredible cost of the depositions and the discovery, which we applied with everything, it got defaulted, we learned, because we had all our archives basically, what I'd done. And they went through maybe 10 shows I'd done on it, and then maybe 7 or 8 other shows my guest host or some of my reporters had done, or interviews. We had a debate about it. I had the school safety guy on a few times. I had one of the professors on. I don't think I ever had the Florida guy on. I think I had him on too. So maybe we did 15 shows on it. And basically because the listeners wanted us to. I never went to Connecticut, never went to their houses, never sent anybody to their houses, never did any of that. So then they wanted to attack Trump. And Hillary brings it up a few months before the campaign ends, and they try to make me Trump. So by demonizing me, they think they're going to hurt Trump. And suddenly, I'm in every newspaper every day. I mean, everywhere. AP every couple of days.
I remember.
I could flip through CNN, MSNBC, ABC News, turn to Local News 8 that Time Warner runs. Now it's Verizon, or it's now, what's the local cable called? It doesn't matter. They've still got their local news channel.
Frontier?
It's driving me crazy. What's the name of local cable, Chase, in Austin? It's Spectrum. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, sorry. I get obsessed with that point and can't remember it. So with me, I just actually go into my memories. This isn't like, scripted. I'm just going into my memory. So it's kind of jumping back and forth. So Local News 8 at the time, which was still CNN, is attacking me every day for off and on for a year. And it's like they're about to invade a country. The level of propaganda is so bad. But really, they were demonizing free speech, the average conservative, and Trump kind of using me as a straw man. So they built this thing I had done. I'm like, I'm not this important. Something really crazy is going on, but I hadn't figured it out. I knew they were demonizing Trump with me. And so I start saying, I believe it happened. I'd already said that. I go, I listen, I'm not the Sandy Hook guy. Stop. Because they're saying in present tense, I'm sending people to their houses and peeing on graves. And I never did any of that. Nobody did that. So, and they're running ads all over Facebook and all over Twitter. Oh, my God, he's attacking us. And they would send letters to tech companies and say, he's doing it right now. We're in clear and present danger. Stop. And then I got deplatformed everywhere, but not because of that. They gave their reasons why I was deplatformed, and the head of Apple talked about it, Tim Cook, and the head of Twitter went on Joe Rogan and said it was for other reasons, that I'd bullied Oliver Darcy. That was the final reason on X. And then they went, oh, he's off because of Sandy Hook. And then they sued me, I guess 2018. And then it just ran everywhere again and all over the news. I mean, I've been on PBS. People call all the time, hey, there's another documentary about you, and movies. And then they made that HBO thing, and I can tell you about that. But then they get all the discovery, and they keep saying, who's your boss? Where's the money? Where's the Mercers? Where's that? I'm like, I sell T-shirts and videos and supplements. Right. I mean, it's all right here. And then they sanctioned me in Connecticut saying, you're lying. There is Sandy Hook promotional material. Your news, we know, the judge said, we know you have Google Analytics. When Google Analytics is a search of Google systems, what do you want from Google? We want the analytics you were getting. We search our whole database of everything, find one time one of the writers wanted to see a story and went to Google Analytics. And they go, see, we hold you that you are now going to be defaulted because you did use Google Analytics. We wanted the Google Analytics. And I kept explaining it's a search engine internally on Google. It's like saying, give me Google. It's or give me Hollywood. I mean, it's just this huge history. It's this huge thing. And say, give me a tree in the forest. Well, which tree? And so they defaulted me there. They defaulted me in Texas. The same thing. I go in. There's huge HBO cameras. This is 2.5 years ago. And my lawyers aren't allowed to talk. We're given a list of things we can't say. I can't say I'm innocent. I can't say I'm in bankruptcy. And then they put on a financial expert who's never looked at our books and says Jones has made billions. Jones himself is like the greatest entrepreneur ever. He's got $360 million in the bank. And I'm sitting there at the time because of all the suits and everything, and I've got like $3 million in the bank. And my lawyer said your bill's like $4 million. So like the day he's saying this, I'm sitting there, and at coffee and breakfast, they're like, we need money. And I'm literally going, God, I guess I'll sell my lake house. And the judge the last day doesn't let us talk. Same thing in Connecticut. And puts on experts, literally just whole cloth. Glenn Beck has $50 trillion of gold buried under his building. Mm-hmm. And you're up there, you can't respond. And he made it all off them. And made zero off these people. I mean, literally, I cover a story. It's interesting. It's not like there's money in a story. Only time that's true is like, oh, God, look, the water's all got poison in it. We've got a water filter. It's very obvious direct sale.
Right.
You need a water filter. So, and I've had like, ammo companies, advertisers. I'm like, folks, you need ammo. I mean, when it's very direct, speaking of that story, here's this, but never like some master plan. Mm-hmm. And so HBO did stuff like put out stuff that's completely, we've never had something marked up 8 times, even 3 times or 2 times. And they're like, and look, this day, he made $400,000 because this story was on his website. You look at the analytics, 5,000 readers for it. And they line up that one day where a product we've been promoting for 3 months came in. And with storable food, they'd only bill every 2 weeks. When it shipped, we wouldn't bill the credit cards till it shipped. And that product came in. We normally didn't have $400,000 days, usually $150,000 days or something. They go, look, the day of the story, $400,000, he made it off them. No, they charged for 2 weeks of food, and the first day of the sale of a hot product came out. You know that, you're in business. Mm-hmm. To fund your operation. and couldn't get up, couldn't explain it. And the juries just look at me going, anybody in media knows you don't make $400,000 off talking about a mass shooting off a product. No, you promote a book for 6 months, it's coming out. The day it drops, there's a big spike because the people get it. So, and I told them all this in the depositions, and it was just, and you watch the HBO thing, and it's literally twisting little pieces like a refrigerator magnet game where you can make any sentence you want. Or I could cut the Bible up and have it say, love Satan, he's your God, he's the best. Jesus is going to hell. But the Bible doesn't say that, but they would just... So I actually didn't even feel sorry for myself during this. It became actually very interesting historically that I was experiencing this. Then the PR firms came out and bragged how they did it, how they dredged up stuff I did, exaggerated it, blew it up for years, demonized Trump, then sued me, then used it for PR to raise money massively for anti-gun crusades using my name, which is hated by the left so they would get big money. And I just looked back and I was like, wow, this is a very sophisticated corporate, operation. Then internal undercover videos of FBI, CIA admitting it all, the FBI head, counsel. And I didn't get what I was seeing 2.5 years ago in Connecticut. I'm watching the head of the FBI counsel at the time, he's since retired, get up there and say, I don't know why they wanted it on record. The Koskoff lawyer, Koskoff's his name, a third-generation law firm, big Democrat Party thing with Senator Blumenthal. He looks at me and goes, why are you here? And why are you suing? He goes, well, people didn't think it was me, and that day they didn't think I was really an FBI agent because I wasn't wearing my FBI thing and my rifle was pointed down the wrong way or whatever, or up the wrong way. But I am, and and it's terrible. So I came to you and I got with the families, and I think we need to come after him, and so we did because he was doing this to us. My lawyer gets up and he goes, sir, has Mr. Jones ever said your name? No. Has any of his crew ever said your name? No. Have they ever written about you? Anything about you? No, not to my knowledge. Well, tell me, what happened to you? What was the harassment you got? Well, one time a reporter called me to see if I was real at my office at the FBI, and then he called again a month later. I go out during the break, the local web guy, news guy, he's there. He goes, yeah, that was me. And I looked up the record. It was him. He was investigating it before I was. So everything everybody else did was me. He won $130 million of the $1.5 billion. And the law in Connecticut says you can't sue somebody who haven't said their name unless you're in a class action tort, and something like that. But that's not the law. So that was all thrown out. I was found guilty. I was already guilty. They were then shown false information. And I had the FBI saying we initiated the thing against Alex Jones. So, yes, would I have done it different? If I knew the trap, I meant well and just covered what people were saying, and I had no idea years later it would be used against me. Back when I didn't understand how cold-blooded and Democrat Party machine it was, I actually was buying into, wow, I've hurt people, and even though I wasn't the one that ran it or progenerated it, if it makes them feel better, I apologized over and over again pathetically and countless times. That only encouraged it. And then when I got on the Texas stand, and they totally controlled what I could say and shut me down, and the judge said, you're not allowed to lie up here, you're a liar. When I blurted out, I don't have all this money to say, that's not true, yes you do. You're not allowed to lie here. They then put one of the mothers who lost her child up, and I taped my show at 6 a.m. that morning. They come in after lunch, and the lawyer goes, Your Honor, he went on today and said her son doesn't exist and she's an actor. And everybody's looking at me, and the jury's looking at me, and I'm sitting there going, that's not true. So this is like after lunch at like 1 o'clock. I've taped from like 6 to 9. I go down to the courthouse and do this. We barely make it at 9:30. And I'm sitting there, and she goes up to the stand. And for 30 minutes, the judge lets her, goes, how dare you say my son doesn't exist? There's footage of all this. How dare you say he didn't die? You did it again today. And the jury just goes, and I'm like, it's not true. The judge goes, silence! And she goes on and on and on. And then finally, I get to rebut, and I get up and I go, jury, please, you can go watch my show. It's at Infowars.com. It's restreaming. I swear to God, it's in the first 30 minutes. I said she's real. I believe her. Her husband's really nice. I thought he was an actor because he's such just a normal country boy. It's not an act. He's very nice. I'd given him a note saying that. And all of this, and just please, for God's sake, go see it. It didn't matter. And then I looked at him and I was like, and later I went over to him and I gave another note. I said, that's not true. And then the next day I saw him, they were just like, and I was like, whoa, I don't know what's going on here. This is creepy. And then I learned the rest of it. So I don't know. I know It was the weirdest thing when I was being deposed at Koskoff 2 days straight, 6 months before the trial, or 9 months, whatever it was. And they were so paranoid about me, they had like armed guards outside the door and all this. And I'm being deposed by Blumenthal's son, Senator Blumenthal's son, and this other guy looks like Eddie Munster. and he's the big former federal prosecutor that put the Republican governor of Connecticut in jail. His name is Chris Maddy. And I'm sitting there. He goes, I want you to read, because he would have me do this for hours, read these police reports. You don't think kids died? Here it is. And I'd never read these police reports because they'd only gotten released recently, a few years ago, like 4 years ago. And I start reading, we arrive, blah, 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 go in. There's bullet holes in the door, blah, 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 go in. And then there's footage of all this. We have this. A real film ought to be made. You could find it. Anyways. And I've never gone back and looked at it because this was traumatic. And I turned to page 2 and he goes, try to open bathroom door. Can't. Force it open with another officer. Find pyramid, pile of dead children with no blood. Believe bodies were moved there. See, I was saying I thought they had help from what was there when I was actually covering it. Then the fake internet thing comes in and says none die. There's something going on. And Chris May goes, stop. Now, let's move on from that. Let's move on from that right there. I guess he hadn't even read it. It's in the police report. Strike me down. Look at it for yourself. So I don't know what's going on there. And Lanza was approached by unnamed federal agencies. We tried to hack into the CIA. Look that up. And I'm getting chills right now. So I don't know. And I'm not the guy to do this because I'm Alex Jones. I'm just telling people they don't want you looking into this. And that's another thing. They told me in the settlement hearings a year before the trial in Connecticut and Texas, and I couldn't talk about it at the time, in there with his lawyers and a judge, doing the settlement talk. I couldn't talk about it then until they later talked to my lawyers, not in a settlement talk, but openly told them again personally. In Texas and Connecticut, they said, the families, that means Democratic Party above them, never want you to talk about it again. And I said, I don't want to talk about it. I didn't, this is but they go, but we're going to keep talking about you. And I said, well, that's not going to happen. And then they openly said in Connecticut, and he literally looks at me, Koskoff, and he's wearing a mask during COVID. He goes, you don't get it, do you? He goes, we're like the Godfather. We're the mafia. We run this state. You're not going to win this. You're not going to beat us. And he said, they're going to give you a proposal later, your lawyer is. And if you take it or leave it. So my lawyer goes, well, and this is Norm Pattis. He goes, you can't talk about this now because it was in that thing and you signed an agreement, but they later talked about it, so I could. They brought it back to him, and that wasn't in control. They didn't say it then. They said they want you to come out against the Second Amendment. And I said, let me guess, they want something else. I said, call them back and find out. And he said, yeah. They said, that's just the start. And I said, never. And then Texas did the same thing. They didn't say we're the Godfather, but strike me down. He said, we're like, you see the Godfather? And I said, yeah, it's a great movie. I love it. Mario Puzo, the book. And I said, yeah, we're the mafia. We run the state. You will lose. And he said it with total certainty in his fancy suit with his mask on. And it was a big joke. So have I hurt people? Have I said things about people being cocky and a dick? Yeah, I've done it to you. Because I think subconsciously I'm not jealous of people now. I've grown up. I think it was jealousy because I'd been doing this longer. Of course, you've been on air longer than me. And then you just blew up everywhere. It was the overnight success tape, which it wasn't. And then I didn't think you were as hardcore on some issues. And I don't know who talked about who first. But,
we've already done this.
But the reason I raise that is I'm willing to say where I'm wrong. Like, I was wrong to drink. I didn't spend enough time with my first three children. I wasn't a bad dad, but like, C plus. Okay, I want to be an A plus. I've not been with my children enough. I've been a drunk at times. I didn't realize the power I had and would say a lot of stuff off the cuff. And I've learned a lot of lessons. But what they say I did on Sandy Hook is the model of disinformation. Entire tissue. I'm not saying Sandy Hook itself, the shooting. The entire response to me and everything was run with the Democratic Party, PR firms, and law firms with U.S. government agencies admittedly quarterbacking it. And now you see the stuff Trump's gone through with supposedly raping a woman and all that stuff, and then what they did to him. And you look at all of it, and it's just, she can't even say what year it is. She poses on the cover of a major magazine and says, this is what he attacked me in, and it wasn't made till 2 years after. I mean, it's just not, come on. And then you look her up, and she's the definition of a crazy cat lady, and you're not even supposed to be able to say that. So that's why, as much as Trump makes me mad sometimes, because I wish he'd do this, I wish he'd do that, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback, the hell he's gone through. And I know you've gone through a lot, too. And
I don't think anybody's gone through what Trump has gone through. That is I mean, he's the most investigated man, I think, in the history of
the world,
mankind.
Yeah.
By every agency in every country. And this is what you come up with? And then they just screw him to the wall every time. And I mean, I have a very hard time believing that best case scenario, the government, through whatever, their sloppiness and not caring what happens, allowed that shooting to happen.
That's bare minimum.
Yeah,
and
bare minimum.
And if you look at it all, lying and saying the Secret Service shot the guy, and reportedly they didn't. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bare minimum, deliberate standout.
So I can't let you leave without asking.
Is it almost over already?
Oh, we're overtime, but that's great.
I love it. Well, I don't want to just talk about myself all day, but
no. Here's what I want. I want to leave it with this. What's coming
for America?
Yeah, what's coming in the next? With the election. I mean, I can't see a good way that goes. No matter who wins, I can't see, because we no longer have a country where we give each other the benefit of the doubt. We're not going to walk away from this and say, oh, well, that was fair and square. If Trump wins, I can't imagine that the left and the WEF, and with all of the power and money that's at stake, I can't imagine that he makes it to the Oval again.
I totally agree. And to answer your key question, I'll have a little bit of time because this is so important, Glenn. I don't say this because it's about me. You ask what's coming if he loses or wins. I didn't tell you about the 5 grand juries they've had open on me trying to indict me for all sorts of little weird business stuff, and they couldn't by the grace of God. I'm not like John Gotti, hey, you didn't get me. I'm like, I'm innocent. This is crazy. And they're trying that on everybody. So if they're able to steal the election from Trump or kill him, and they already tried, and they killed him because they can see he's even more popular than 2016. And so we need to pray for him. We need to hold him up. We need to support him in all his failings. We're all sinners. And we have to understand that this is the dying of the globalist empire. The old financial bubble's coming to an end. And they tried to kill him because they knew they were going to lose. Now they're going to try even more. He's had multiple plane problems. All this stuff is very serious. And this is why I have empathy, too. If they can get Trump, and he's right when he says they're not trying to get me, they've got to get through me to get to you, you better believe that Tucker Carlson, Glenn Beck, Alex Jones, Joe Rogan's getting more hardcore.
Yeah.
And I know Joe, and so I'm not going to get into inside baseball, but I know these.
RFK.
No, RFK.
Tulsi Gabbard.
They are. I said this before they tried to kill Trump. I said they're imminently going to try to shoot him days before. And I said they cut his security. I was all over that. And I said, folks, if they kill Trump, they're going after, and I said your name. I'm not trying to make this into reality here. But I said, anybody they know that will not sell out just because we can't do it. People say, well, you sell out. I can't physically do it. I can't physically shut up. And so I said they're going to go after Tucker Carlson, myself, Glenn Beck, Rogan, RFK Jr., and I don't mean just go after us with the regular stuff.
No.
Because this is a real criminal regime. And we know the State Department now was involved with the voting machines and getting Bolsonaro indicted and getting Bolsonaro kicked off the ballot. It's all the same.
And helping the Brazilian government go after Elon Musk now.
Exactly. Oh, God. I didn't say Elon Musk. Okay, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. And Elon Musk.
This is the order of who they need to get, because this is who's the biggest. And I've said this on air, and it's not about a weenie measuring contest. In fact, I kind of like to be not, because they saw me in 2016.
I'd like to not be on this list.
Exactly. They saw me as the biggest thing other than Trump in 2016. I was not. Your show was bigger. It's not about measuring. It's just true. But they picked me as like the big devil. So it goes Trump and Elon Musk. You can't say who they hate more. I think they're like twin things here, twin stars. And then you've got the Rogans, Glenn Becks, Tucker Carlsons, and then you've got Alex Jones and the Russell Brands and all that stuff. And of course, RFK is kind of, up there on his own thing, but he's
not a direct threat to them, but I think he's pissed them off so much that,
Yeah, so we're not up here like saying this like, hey, we're on the, it's like when John Hancock signed his name so big.
Oh,
he knew what he was doing. And I'm telling you, this is the game time. So yeah, I mean, well, I'll ask Glenn Beck his own question. I mean, I think Trump's right. We are doomed pretty much. I mean, barring a miracle. We saw a miracle in Butler.
I think this is the last exit America can take. If we don't take this exit and turn back to God, turn back to the Constitution, we're done. And we get everything we deserve.
Absolutely.
And I do think that, you look at the silencing campaign that is going on right now in Brazil, in Europe, in England, and the authoritarian lust for silence from the other side. By the end of the next term, if it is Kamala Harris, I don't think our voices, one way or another, I don't think any dissenting voice is heard.
That's perfectly said, and I just say this in closing. They say that. They say they must shut us down.
Yes.
They are seizing power, like when the Nazis did it or the communists in Russia or China. They say they're seizing power. They're making their big move. The red banners are back in the streets all over the world. The intimidation, it's insane. And that's why it's important to support the Blaze. It's why for your viewers out there, they may shut down InfoWars in the next 2 months. They've liquidated it. The U.S. trustee got fired by the judge. They tried to shut it down 10 weeks ago. You were gracious enough to have me on. They later admitted, we tried to shut it down outside of a court order. They just came and said, we're locking the doors. The judge fired them, said no. But Mr. Jones is in bankruptcy himself, so they don't want to settle. I'm ordering liquidation. The sale is October 24th. We've got a lot of folks that are patriots that are come in. They can try to outbid us. They say they have some globalist billionaires that come into it. They're even trying to say they own my name, which they don't, and the real Alex Jones on X. All the lawyers say they can't do it. So it's now identity theft next level, slavery. And so people need to know it could be the twilight of InfoWars, and people will just check out the show, not so I get bigger, it's so I survive. And so if people just in a few months, where's Alex, look for me, try to find me, because the real danger is when they silence somebody before they even come back, that's when they target. And so this is about my family. It is extremely dangerous. And to me, it's about survival of the country now. We're all in this together. I was talking to your producer, Glenn, and we've talked on air. You've been more elegant and smart because you're older than I was. I've learned a lot from you. I think you do some of the best insightful analysis, the best out there, period. And so I've learned a lot from you, and I appreciate that. But you're absolutely right when you say, even, 10, 15 years ago, we're still kind of in competition and we're sniping. And no, I see populist conservatives, Christians everywhere really unifying now because
we have to. And Alex, I'm sure there's tons of stuff that we disagree with, I'm sure.
Yeah. We agree America's in trouble.
We agree that America's in trouble. And I am a free speech absolutist. Period.
That's what America is.
Yeah. If you are an enemy of free speech, I'm your enemy. You're going after somebody, and not you, but I mean they've gone after, they've gone after Bill Maher, who I have nothing in common with. Back after the World Trade Center went down, I stood with him.
You did
because free speech is the cornerstone of everything.
And I know you know this, but. I didn't know this until it happened to me. I thought when you're young, you know everything. You get older, you know nothing. Yeah. You don't just get silenced when they silence you. They can then lie about you, misrepresent you, and still you're right. And they build this thing you're not, and you can't respond. That's why you've got to let really horrible speech go, because the antidote is the good speech.
Yes. Alex Jones.
Glenn, thank you so much. Amazing.
Thank you. God bless you.
The coolest studios in America.
Thank you.
And by the way, you're an amazing artist. I'm not kissing your ass. It's true.
Thank you.
Damn. If anything he just said is correct, it truly explains what Trump has been going through. Because I had no idea that they would make these kinds of attacks, from the quote-unquote Illuminati people, you want to call them that, I never in my life thought that they would make these attacks so blatantly obvious. It's obvious that this shit is just bullshit that they're throwing at this guy. See, they have control of the courts and all that, so of course they're all uppity about it. But yeah, that's scary shit. If they did that to Alex Jones, and this was a guy running, what I remember about Alex was that he was running around making cool TV shows and, you know, about the weird shit. And he would bring certain things to light. There's a lot of conspiracy theory shit that not a lot of people were doing anything about. So that's why he's considered like one of the original pioneers of that sort of conspiracy theory TV show. But where am I? Anyway, I mean, that's amazing. You know, the shit the judge comes up with over there out of New York has got to be crazy. I mean, that is some crazy shit. Think about that. There's no way. There is no fucking way that, you know, Trump is doing this and that, and you know, the rich guy in charge doesn't take blame for what some pencil neck does. If a pencil neck made a mistake, then it just gets fired. You know, he doesn't do all the little paperwork in the company. Nobody gets held accountable to that level in a company. Not the CEO. So, anyway, unfortunately, you know, Joy Reid has got to be the freaking head reptilian as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, you know, these people, they just want to destroy Trump. They don't want him in power. They don't want him to be in control of anything. And it's just sad.
It's slow for a while.
See if I can find a good breaking point or something. Oh, here it is.
The spikes in general. Does the Imperial... Have you faced... Let's hope the...
Yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit. Ah, Jesus. You know, this country, you never used to be this fucked up. Never. I mean, at least they used to hide their fuck-ups, and they used to, you know, cover it up properly. And you know, it's so obvious that they're just flat-out lying and mudslinging, and it's like they have no scruples whatsoever. At all. And you're like, how is this even possible?
It's okay.
Jesus. I'm not going to play anymore. I'm just going to try to finish this roundup here. And then I'll play. Jesus Christ. Yeah, between that, you know, I'm saying if the numbers that they were giving, saying that he made all this money and he doesn't have any fucking money, doesn't make any damn sense. At all. Can you imagine somebody telling you that you have the income of a small country? And you're just a news broadcaster? You're just, doing that conspiracy theory shit? That's all you're doing. You believe that shit?
You must be commander. The Republic has the Empire. Killing me won't. I'm still. Forget the Emperors. Check out this.
All right. That was a real long game. And I'm glad I did it because, Corellia is one of the planets that does take a long time to do all the missions. I really am. That's pretty cool. We'll run our asses out of here. Alright, so I'm going to just stop it here and... Well, actually, I should teleport over there. Because this thing goes on a timer, and if I teleport now, I'll have a fast travel available later on, so I'll just teleport over here. Alright, well, thanks for watching. Holy shit, and I didn't know there was so much shit behind Alex Jones. I thought he was just retired or some shit. Looks like they took his ass out, man. Yeah, it's like with me and my demon possession and all this shit. They took me out, but I didn't have much to work with. Always been poor. Yeah. Well, take care, guys. Thanks for watching. Oh, shit.